People always ask what habit changed my life the most. The truth is, it wasn't one habit. It was a collection of small decisions that on their own didn't seem important at all. They weren't dramatic. They didn't transform my life overnight. Most of them felt almost too simple to matter. But that's the thing about habits. They don't change your life in a single day. They quietly change the direction of your life over months and years, until one day you look back and barely recognize the person you used to be. Everyone wants big results, a better body, more confidence, more friends, more money, more happiness. But very few people fall in love with the small actions that create those results. We love the destination while ignoring the process. That's why so many people give up. They expect one good day to erase years of bad habits. Real growth doesn't work like that. Your life is built by what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally accomplish. The first habit that changed my life was learning to protect my mornings. For the longest time, I would wake up and immediately reach for my phone. Before I had even gotten out of bed, my mind was already filled with notifications, videos, opinions, and distractions from people I'd never met. Without realizing it, I was letting the internet decide how I felt before I had even given myself a chance to think. Eventually, I started asking myself a simple question. Why am I giving everyone else the first moments of my day? Those first few minutes are powerful. They're the foundation for everything that follows. Instead of scrolling, I began sitting with my own thoughts. Sometimes I'd write them down. Sometimes I'd simply enjoy the silence. At first, it felt uncomfortable because we've become so used to constant stimulation that silence almost feels unfamiliar. But over time, I realized something. Peace isn't found by adding more noise. It's found by creating more space. The second habit was reading every single day. Not because I wanted to finish a certain number of books or look intelligent, but because I realized that almost every problem I've faced has already been experienced by someone else. Someone has already struggled with confidence. Someone has already felt lonely. Someone has already failed, recovered, and written down what they learned. Books became conversations with people I would never meet. Every page offered a different perspective, a different lesson, and a different way of seeing the world. Slowly, my own thinking began to change. That's the interesting thing about habits. You rarely notice them working while you're doing them. You notice them months later when you respond to situations differently than you would have before. Growth is quiet. It happens beneath the surface long before anyone else notices it. The third habit was becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. For years, I waited until I felt confident enough to try something new, talk to new people, or finally start chasing my goals. The problem is that confidence almost never comes first. Action comes first, and confidence follows. Every skill you've ever admired began with someone who had absolutely no idea what they were doing. The difference wasn't talent, it was repetition. Every time you do something difficult, you're sending yourself a message that says, I survived. After enough repetitions, that message slowly becomes, I can do this. That's how confidence is built, not by thinking, but by proving yourself right through action. The fourth habit was learning to spend time alone without seeing it as loneliness. For a long time, being by myself felt like something was missing. Now I see it differently. Being alone gave me room to think, reflect, and understand who I was without everyone else's opinions. Some of the most important conversations you'll ever have happen inside your own mind. If you're constantly distracting yourself, you'll never hear them. Being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Sometimes it's the environment where you grow the most. These habits weren't exciting. Nobody applauded them. Nobody noticed them. From the outside, my life looked exactly the same. But inside, everything was slowly changing, because real transformation rarely happens in front of an audience. It happens during the quiet moments when nobody is watching, and those quiet moments eventually become the person the world sees. The fifth habit that changed my life was taking responsibility instead of making excuses. For a long time, I blamed my circumstances for where I was. I blamed my schedule, my motivation, my past, and sometimes even other people. While some of those things were real obstacles, constantly focusing on them kept me stuck. The moment I stopped asking, why is this happening to me, and started asking, what can I do about it, everything began to change. Responsibility isn't about blaming yourself for everything that goes wrong. It's about realizing that your future is still in your hands. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. That mindset alone made me feel more in control of my life than I ever had before. The sixth habit was learning to stop comparing my life to everyone else's. It's incredibly easy to believe you're falling behind when every time you open your phone, someone else seems to be succeeding. Someone gets into their dream college, someone buys their first car, someone starts a business, someone finds the perfect relationship. Without realizing it, you begin measuring your life against moments that were carefully selected to be shared with the world. But comparison has a way of stealing the joy from your own progress. It convinces you that what you've accomplished isn't enough simply because someone else has accomplished something different. Eventually, I realized that I wasn't competing with anyone except the person I was yesterday. The only progress that truly matters is becoming a little wiser, a little kinder, and a little stronger than you were before. The seventh habit was keeping promises to myself. This one sounds simple, but it completely changed the way I viewed confidence. Every time I told myself I was going to wake up early and didn't, every time I promised I'd start tomorrow and didn't, every time I said I'd finish something but gave up halfway through, I was quietly teaching myself that my own word couldn't be trusted. Over time, that chips away at your confidence because confidence isn't just believing you're capable, it's believing you'll actually follow through. So I started making smaller promises, reading just 10 pages, going for a short walk, spending 15 minutes working on a goal. They weren't huge accomplishments, but every time I followed through, I proved to myself that I could trust my own discipline. Those small victories slowly became larger ones, and before I knew it, I wasn't relying on motivation anymore. I was relying on consistency. One thing I learned through all of these habits is that your life rarely changes because of one big decision. It changes because of hundreds of tiny decisions that nobody else notices. Waking up a little earlier, choosing to read instead of scroll. Going to the gym when nobody expects you to, practicing a skill even when you're still terrible at it, saying no to distractions so you can say yes to your future. Those moments don't feel life-changing while they're happening, but they're quietly shaping the person you're becoming every single day. The difficult part is that results almost always arrive later than we expect. We live in a world where everything feels instant. We expect progress to happen within days, maybe weeks. But real growth is slower than that. It's invisible for a long time. There will be days where you feel like nothing is changing at all. That's usually when people quit. They mistake a lack of visible results for a lack of progress. But just because you can't see the roots growing doesn't mean the tree isn't growing beneath the surface. The habits you're building today are creating a future that you haven't seen yet. Trust the process long enough to let it work. The eighth habit that changed my life was learning to say no. At first, I thought saying yes to everything would open more doors. I didn't want to disappoint people, so I agreed to plans I wasn't excited about, took on responsibilities I didn't have time for, and spent hours doing things that didn't move my life forward. It felt like the right thing to do because everyone tells you to be kind and helpful, but there's a difference between being kind and constantly sacrificing your own priorities. Every time you say yes to something, you're also saying no to something else. If you say yes to scrolling for another hour, you're saying no to reading. If you say yes to staying up until 3 in the morning, you're saying no to waking up with energy. If you say yes to people who constantly drain your time, you're saying no to the goals you've been telling yourself you'll start tomorrow. I realized that every decision comes with an opportunity cost. Time is the only resource you'll never get back. Money can be earned again. Skills can be learned again, opportunities can appear again, but once a day is over, it's gone forever. That realization completely changed how I treated my schedule. I stopped asking myself what I wanted to do in the moment and started asking what the future version of myself would thank me for. Surprisingly, saying no didn't make my life feel smaller, it made it feel more intentional. I had more time for the things that actually mattered, more energy to invest in my goals, and less guilt about constantly falling behind. Sometimes protecting your future means disappointing your present self, and that's okay. The ninth habit that changed my life was becoming a lifelong student. School teaches us that learning ends when the class is over, but real life works differently. The people who continue growing are usually the ones who never stop learning. They ask questions, they stay curious, they admit when they don't know something. They aren't embarrassed to be beginners because they understand that every expert was once in the exact same position. I used to believe that talent was the biggest difference between successful people and everyone else. The more I observed, the more I realized that curiosity often matters much more. Curious people aren't afraid to fail because every mistake teaches them something valuable. Instead of seeing failure as proof that they aren't good enough, they see it as information. Every setback answers a question. Every mistake points out something that can be improved. Once I adopted that mindset, I stopped fearing failure so much. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" I started asking, "What can this teach me?" That single question changed the way I approached almost everything in life. Whether it was learning a new skill, working toward a goal, or simply trying something unfamiliar, I reminded myself that progress doesn't require perfection. It only requires a willingness to keep learning. Looking back, many of the opportunities I've had weren't possible because I was naturally gifted. They happened because I kept learning long after most people would have quit. The 10th habit that changed my life was practicing gratitude. I'll be honest, I used to think gratitude sounded cliché. Whenever people talked about it, I assumed they were ignoring reality or pretending life was perfect. But gratitude isn't pretending that nothing is wrong. It's choosing not to overlook what's still right. There will always be problems. There will always be something you wish you had, somewhere else you wish you were, or someone you wish you could become. If you spend your entire life waiting until everything is perfect before allowing yourself to feel grateful, you'll spend your entire life waiting. I started with something incredibly simple. Every night before going to sleep, I thought of 3 things that went well that day. Some days they were big. Other days they were as small as enjoying a good meal, hearing my favorite song, or watching the sunset. At first it felt insignificant, but after a few months something unexpected happened. My brain naturally began looking for the good throughout the day because it knew I'd be reflecting on it later. Instead of only noticing what was missing, I began noticing what I already had. That shift didn't eliminate my problems, but it changed the way I carried them. Gratitude didn't make life easier, it made me stronger. It reminded me that even during difficult seasons, there were still reasons to keep moving forward. There were still moments worth appreciating. There were still people worth loving. There was still hope waiting quietly in places I had stopped looking. When I look back on these 10 habits, none of them seem extraordinary. None of them required perfect timing, unlimited money, or incredible talent. They were simple choices repeated over and over again until they became part of who I was. That's what habits really are. They're not things you do, they're things that slowly shape your identity. Every action you repeat is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. If you read today, you're becoming a reader. If you exercise today, you're becoming someone who values their health. If you keep promises to yourself today, you're becoming someone who trusts themselves. Those small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but they add up in ways you can't see. One of the biggest misconceptions about self-improvement is believing that your life changes overnight. We love dramatic transformation stories because they're exciting. We see the before and after pictures. We hear about the overnight success, but what we don't see are the thousands of ordinary days in between, the early mornings, the quiet evenings. The moments where someone chose discipline over comfort even though nobody was watching. That's where change really happens. Not on the days when you feel motivated, but on the days when you don't. Motivation comes and goes, discipline stays. That's why building habits matters so much. Habits continue working even when motivation disappears. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's this: don't underestimate the power of small changes. You don't have to transform your entire life by tomorrow morning. You don't have to suddenly become perfect. You don't need to have every answer figured out before you begin. Just start with one habit, one decision, one promise to yourself that you'll keep no matter how small it seems, because those small promises become confidence. Confidence becomes action. Action becomes progress. And progress repeated long enough becomes a completely different life. 1 year from now, you'll either be grateful that you started today or wishing that you had. The time is going to pass either way. The question is whether you'll spend that time becoming the person you've always wanted to be or continuing to wait for the perfect moment that never arrives. Your future isn't built in one extraordinary day. It's built in the ordinary days that most people overlook, so protect those days. Use them wisely. Trust that the effort you're putting in today is creating a future you can't fully see yet. You don't need to change your life overnight. You only need to change what you do today, then do it again tomorrow and the day after that. Because one day you'll look back, not at one massive decision that changed everything, but at hundreds of tiny decisions that quietly built the life you're living now. Before this video ends, I want to leave you with one final thought. When people look at someone who's successful, confident, or genuinely happy, they usually see the result. They see the accomplishments, the discipline, or the lifestyle. What they don't see are the thousands of ordinary decisions that built that person over time. They don't see the mornings where getting out of bed felt difficult. They don't see the evenings where someone chose to work on themselves instead of taking the easy path. They don't see the moments where nobody was watching, nobody was cheering, and nobody even knew they were trying. That's where your future is being built, not on your best day, not on the day you feel incredibly motivated, but on the average Tuesday when you have every excuse to give up and choose not to. I've learned that life rarely changes because of one huge breakthrough. It changes because you slowly become someone who thinks differently, acts differently, and responds to challenges differently. One habit turns into two. Two habits become part of your routine. Eventually, your routine becomes your lifestyle, and your lifestyle becomes your identity. That's why you shouldn't become discouraged if your progress feels slow. Slow progress is still progress. There will be days where it feels like you're putting in effort and getting nothing back. You'll wonder if waking up earlier is even making a difference. You'll question whether reading another chapter matters. You'll think that skipping one workout, one study session, or one goal won't hurt. Maybe it won't, but those decisions have a funny way of adding up. Just like one healthy meal won't transform your body, one unhealthy meal won't ruin it either. Just like one good decision won't change your life overnight, one bad decision usually won't destroy it. Your future is built by patterns, not moments, and that's actually good news, because it means you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to wake up tomorrow and suddenly become the most disciplined person in the world. You don't have to completely reinvent yourself before the week is over. You just have to become 1% better than you were yesterday. That might sound insignificant, but imagine what happens if you improve just a little every single day. Read one more page than you did yesterday. Spend 10 more minutes learning a skill. Go for one more walk. Have one more difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Keep one more promise to yourself. Those tiny improvements seem invisible while they're happening, but months from now, they'll become impossible to ignore. One day you'll wake up and realize that the things which once felt difficult have become normal. You'll notice that you're handling stress differently. You'll realize you're more patient than you used to be. You'll look back at old versions of yourself and smile because you've become someone they could only dream of becoming. The beautiful thing about habits is that they don't just change what you do, they change what you believe about yourself. Every time you follow through on a promise, you're telling yourself, I'm someone who finishes what I start. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you're telling yourself, I'm capable of becoming more. Every time you get back up after failing, you're proving that your setbacks don't define your future. Your identity isn't fixed, it's something you build every single day. So if you've been waiting for the perfect moment to finally change your life, maybe this is your reminder that the perfect moment doesn't exist. There will always be another excuse, another distraction, another reason to wait until Monday, next month, or next year. But your future doesn't begin someday. It begins with the decision you make after this video ends. Maybe today you'll read for 15 minutes. Maybe you'll finally start that project you've been putting off. Maybe you'll go for a walk instead of spending another hour scrolling. Maybe you'll simply keep one promise to yourself. Whatever it is, make it count, because years from now, you won't remember one extraordinary day that changed your life. You'll remember the season where you stopped waiting and finally decided to become the person you always knew you could be. Thank you for spending your time with me. I genuinely hope at least one of these habits stays with you long after this video is over. You don't have to change everything overnight. Just choose one habit, stay consistent with it, and let time do what it does best.